I definitely want to welcome you in. Everyone that is watching, I have the honor to interview Chrisette Michele, Grammy Award winning singer and songwriter. So, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good.
And, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I want to ask you, I asked, how are you? And, most people will say, I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine. But how are you really? Are you really good? How's everything going for you?
Sure. So, very long story short, because I wrote a dissertation on that particular subject. Um, I am good is more of an affirmation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Um, and I think we have to choose that affirmation wisely, and we have to decide what kind of energy we're going to share with other people. It's true, we have these American formalities that we give people, but then they don't support us. So I am good is kind of what I've chosen as my like thing to say. I'm fine is a little different, you know what I mean? Because it's like sometimes we're not fine. But I am
Right.
good just means that I'm kind of walking in the right path and it's making sense. It will make sense at some point.
Yes.
I'm, I am good. I am enough. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, I love that perspective on it. It kind of makes me think like, wow, like it's a choice. You
Mhm.
don't have to choose to be offended or upset that day. You set the tone first thing when you wake up. So I love that perspective on it.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to kind of go back a little bit as far as your music journey. You are the public figure Chrisette Michele, but then we also have the Chrisette Michele from New York that most people won't see behind closed doors. So just in your journey, have there been times where you've struggled with internal battles with society's norms and what felt right for you?
Sure. From the very beginning, there was a lot of success around me. So I was in this big, huge record label with all these huge names, um, and the people around me, Jay Z and Lady Gaga at the time, and Rihanna, they all seemed to Mariah Carey, they all seemed to have this ease with their names being so big, especially Jay Z. He was just very zen all the time. And I couldn't associate myself with all of what everybody was saying about little old me. It wasn't that I was humble, right? Because that's a whole nother thing. But it was more so like, why are they shouting? You know what I mean? So this society normality of kind of shouting about talent, I never got used to it. I literally never got used to it. And so I had to be okay with not being comfortable with that noise. And that was probably the hardest adaptation to being a public figure was the amount of noise around my name, Chrisette Michele from New York.
Wow. So how do you deal with it now? You've adapted, but for new artists that are in the industry, we have the pressures of social media and just the stigma of not being able to truly be yourself and express yourself. So, kind of, what's your perspective on what new artists may be facing and what you've experienced?
I love that question. And I like your questions, by the way. They're
Thank
very, like, very, I like them. Um, the main thing for new artists now is that you can create products. Back in the day, or earlier on in the music business, like if you read Donald Passman's Guide to the Music Business, there was a process to creativity, and there were so many hands in that process, not a bad way, not a good way, just common practice. And so the artist would find themselves producing and reproducing themselves. Now, an artist can say, I'm going to create this one small thing and put it here. Then I'm going to create this one small thing and it's only going to be on Instagram. And then this one small thing is only going to go to Spotify. And then I'm going to do merch, but I'm only going to do it on Teespring. Like artists now have the capability and the power to create as much as they feel safe and comfortable creating and put it where they can handle experiencing and interacting with it. And then as those things grow, you as the artist can also grow and evolve with those, smaller sized businesses until it grows to a place that you're comfortable with. So what I'm talking about is scaling really, and I'm talking about the artist's ability to scale, unlike in the past. You have more control over scaling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I really it's really tough because you want to look for those artists and you want to idolize, that they're just so great and they're wonderful, but at the end of the day you have to realize these are still people. They go through things, they go through personal things, they go through, the scrutiny of the media and everyone's opinion. So it can be tough, but I like the fact that you mentioned, scaling because you do it on your own terms. It's what you make it. So I really like that perspective. And
For sure.
so now that you have really gone on this journey of health and wellness, I kind of want to see like when was it that pivotal moment where you wanted to make health and wellness a lifestyle and actually build a routine around that?
Well, there were two people early on in my career. I did a TV show years ago, maybe more than a decade, called Girlfriends, and I did a guest spot. And one of the actresses on the TV show handed me a DVD, and she said, "Go watch this." And it was something that she had produced with her friends called Earthlings, and it was about the inhumane treatment of animals. And then I went on tour with Anthony Hamilton, and he had a vegan chef, and he would bring us green juices, and he would bring us all these special really cool foods that I hadn't had on the road with me before. Uh, and so between those two experiences, I kind of realized that some of us artists are like very sensitive to the atmosphere, to the environment, to sounds, to noise, to people, but we're also very sensitive to the spirit space and to the foods that we put in our body. Not necessarily from a religious or a dogmatic space, but just we're just sensitive. And so there was on tour, there was always this sense of community around that inner wellness. And so it just was a natural part of being an artist. Sharing it with the world or with other people came second, but it kind of is what I am as an artist.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I need my friends to hear this because they are on the health journey. Me, it's a work in progress, definitely for sure. But it's something that, is different. So you're having to come out of your comfort zone. So I love that you had, that introduction, but the support around it by being on tour. So that's pretty interesting. I'm gonna work on myself.
Yeah, everybody's different. My whole thing with health and wellness is it doesn't have to look the same for each person. I think health and wellness is about what you're sensitive to and what you're not sensitive to. A lot of times people try and put on other people what they're sensitive to. Like somebody might have a gluten intolerance, so they can't have gluten. That doesn't mean everybody should stop eating gluten. It means that that person should stop eating gluten. So everybody's different. Don't feel too bad.
Thank you for putting me at ease. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about the tour, the Soft Life Circle Inner Wellness Tour. I love the name. So kind of tell
Thank
me a little bit the purpose behind the name and what inspired you to, come back. It's been a few years. So what inspired you to create the tour?
Sure. So I always this tour so far feels like it's for sensitive people. It feels like it's for people who have made a name for themselves in the world. A lot of entrepreneurs are buying tickets. A lot of workaholics are buying tickets. I noticed that just by looking at different people's Instagram who are purchasing tickets or having met people before and saying, "Oh my God, you're coming to the tour." Um, a lot of public figures are buying tickets. And so what I'm sensing is that people are looking for a respite from creating just for a second. They're looking for a moment away from producing and performing and from selling. And they just want a minute to kind of stop, take a deep breath, and be in a safe space. So that's what I'm picking up. So the Soft Life Circle Inner Wellness Tour is for the person who's been in creative mode for a really long time and just feels like it's a rat race and just needs a moment to know that it's okay to just show up as yourself. So I won't ask anybody any entrepreneurial questions. There won't be a networking hour. You won't have to tell everybody what you do for work. It's just a safe place for the ones of us who are building nonstop to take a breather. That's the goal.
I love that. And you said something that I was hoping that it was going to be as great of an answer as it was, because now when we hear soft life, we hear the soft girl era and being in your feminine energy. And it's become a thing now, especially with social media, where it's more aesthetically pleasing to have the soft girl life. They're chasing after the material things, but I look at soft life, soft girl era as, just the ease of, flowing into things to ease your mind, your body, and your soul. So I love the fact that you're kind of getting the unexpected as far as people buying tickets. It's for the everyday person, creating just
Oh,
that safe space in general. So I love that.
yeah, no, absolutely. Softening for me is about being brave enough to be soft in a hard world. Are you brave enough to be the epitome of yourself in a really tough world? And in order to do that, you have to soften. You have to let go of defense and offense and fear of what people think. And so for me, the soft life and that true uh, feminine rest that they're meaning to talk about comes from embracing the truth of who you are and then allowing yourself to be that in real life. You don't have to just make it, you can be it. You can be soft.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
since you are creating this safe space for everyone who's going to attend your tour and attend the event, what are some things that the people can look for that's gonna, really give that safe zone for them to embrace that softness?
Sure. So, a couple of years back, I got my yoga instructor's license, and it was really necessary for me to just embrace teaching yoga, especially being on the road so often. And then I opened up a yoga studio, and I found that there were these types of people coming into the studio and just needing a respite. So the day starts off with yoga, pranayama, just breathing exercises. In some cities, we'll switch it up and do a sound bath. Experience where I'll play my sound bowls and we'll do some meditation together. But that's how it begins, just to release. And then we move into having something to eat together. So that'll be fun. A lot of the cities, it'll be like, I don't want to give too much away because it is very intimate. But a lot of cities, it'll be like picnic style on pillows with candles and teepees, just really a vibe. We'll move into a mini concert, which is like an acoustic concert for to share all the new music that I've been working on for this new album that I'm coming out with. And then finally, I'll share one of the seven softening lessons in every city, which are just kind of stories of what it's been like, walking through this industry and how I've found ways to sort of soften and show up, even in a scary place. And then we'll open up for Q&A. So it's almost like a kind of a workshopy kind of a day, a vibe the whole time. And me and my team are literally there to serve. Like we just want to make people feel okay to be soft when they leave.
Wow, I love that. And you said something there, you and your team are there to serve. And I feel part of, just from a spiritual standpoint, part of being soft and, opening yourself up, you have to share that with other people. And my pastor actually has been embracing, let's share the good news, share your testimony. And so it can be tough for people, but I love the fact that you are creating the environment for that. But I'm curious to know, when you were in your journey of, softening, did you have any obstacles, or what was it like initially having to dig deep and pull another layer of Chrisette?
Wow. I've done a couple of interviews in the last few days, and I keep getting that question, and it takes me to a place that I'm almost scared to go to, right? Because I'll have to tell you that I came into the industry super soft, super pliable, super excited. And when I sat down at my first interviews, the questions that were asked had nothing to do with who I actually was. Remember, the first question I was ever asked in an interview was, "Are those your real breasts?" And this is a girl who, was in college for vocal jazz performance, came out of college, got a record deal, and thought she was just going to spread music and love around this world. And the first question is about my breasts. And it's like, can you see me? Do you know what I mean? And I remember in that moment and in that first round of dozens of my very first interviews, this is over a decade ago, just immediately shutting off. I mean, sis, immediately shutting off and feeling absolutely like there's no point in expressing myself at all. And so I found a few masks to wear. I found a few indulgences to love. One was travel. One was shopping. I loved shopping. Plus, you could clothe your boobs so that people wouldn't see them, and kind of just shield yourself from, strange questions. You know, the safest place for me became the stage because nobody would ask you anything. They would either listen and applaud or they wouldn't show up. So people would say, "Are you afraid when you're on stage?" And I'm like, "No, that's actually the safest place in this career is the stage, the spotlight, because you're the only one in it. You're kind of like by yourself." And so during the pandemic is kind of when I started to shed that mask, that fear of questions. I started to think about taking interviews again, but for years I wouldn't even take interviews because I felt like people didn't even know who or what they were talking to. Yeah, so the softening journey, um, I would say it took about 3 years, really 7, but 3 years publicly, where people could kind of see, oh, she's shifting. And this is kind of the climax of it. This tour is kind of like my expression of it. Yeah. Long
Wow.
answer.
No, but great answer. That it really, I like to tell people that you have to look within the journey. You can't just look at the surface of things because life happens. Life, and it's amazing to know that, it's a process. And
Oh
for
yeah.
you to say 7 years, but publicly 3, it really takes one to look back and sit like, wow, like she's gone through this privately. She's had the courage to open up, publicly and really share that journey because it's such an intimate space. And I'm curious because now that you're coming back into the spotlight again, but it's on a new playing field. And so you did mention that you will be sharing some songs from the new album that you're working on. I saw in a recent interview that you did that you said prior, your previous years, that music was not therapy for you.
No.
So I'm curious to see, has that changed, and what was the process like in creating music for this album and the tour?
Sure. I never thought music was supposed to be therapy. Like that was kind of a cool thing that people were saying, but my therapy was therapy. Going to a therapist was therapy. Definitely not music. Music was this thing that I created to make people feel better. That was always the point of it, was what do people want to hear? And so when I first got signed, people wanted to hear this R&B sound, and so I learned how to craft that and how to master that, and give that to people in hopes that they would just feel better. I always, being that sensitive person that I am, always felt like people were like carrying so much. So during the pandemic, really after the inauguration, after the cancellation, um, I I got to like be really quiet with myself. People don't know, but I was still performing a lot, um, like a whole lot. Like if you at any given time you kind of look at my dates, I was always on the road, but I got to be quiet in that everything wasn't such a big deal that I was doing. Like, sure, I might be in your city, but like if I'm in Detroit, Chicago doesn't know. Like, it was PR has this strange way of publicizing what they want to publicize about people. But during that time I began to like write when I pray. I would be I would be in prayer, but I would come out of prayer kind of singing. And as a worship leader, growing up, that was a normal thing, but it came back to me really strongly, um, I guess in my darkest hour. And I began to write those songs down. They weren't just prophetic anymore. Now I would put them on paper and hold on to them. And I got this prophecy, to be completely transparent, that there was this notebook that I had all these songs in, and I needed to record them and release them. And I was like, now I'd heard this before, like maybe 15 years ago, right before I got signed. Somebody else said the same prophecy. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not ever letting anybody into my spiritual life. Like, that's sacred, it's private, mind your business. But this time, after going through all that I've gone through, I was like, let me just listen, you know? And so that process right there has been therapeutic, because recording that sound is me. Like, that's what's in my heart. Hearing it back at me, and then uh adding whatever instrumentation, strings, horns, background vocals, drums, etc., guitars. It's it's otherworldly. It's kind of like unbelievable that it came from my head. It's never been that for me. It's never been, let me just write what's on my heart and share that at the radio. Those people are asking questions about somebody I don't know. They're asking about my breasts. you know, how do I write a song for that person? So you write a song about your breasts. But now I'm writing songs about my heart.
Wow. I love that. It's funny how things always come back full circle, especially with the prophecy that you receive. And it's like, no, you stray away from it for so long, but in the end, it's gonna find you. But the joy
It's terrible to
after.
admit. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. So, speaking of the tour, it kicks off in July. So,
Mhm.
people are already purchasing their tickets, but where can people purchase their tickets?
Sure. You can go to the softlifecircle.com. The description of the tour is there, and all the cities are there. Seating is super limited. So it's a very, very intimate tour. But yeah, you can get your tickets there for now. We're about to have to put up some sold out signs. So hurry up.
I have to hurry up and get my ticket. I live in Atlanta,
Yeah.
so August 5th, that's my
Gosh,
mom's
they're
birthday.
selling out first. I
After
might have to add a date in Atlanta. I might have to do that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I love that. And so, you're more than just the music. So what else do you have coming up? What's new for Chrisette?
Yeah, actually, just yesterday, I got a press release that's about to go out, about a movie that I'm in for this Christmas on BET Plus. So I have some acting stuff coming up, and I'm really excited about that. That was one of those things that I kind of claimed, if you will, at the top of the year. So you'll see me acting a little bit more. The Soft Life Circle tour, of course, and then my first single. And I've put out a few singles over the past few years, but this single we're putting like a lot behind. It's called Home, and I'm stoked about this new music. Like, it's almost to the point where it's like, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, that's okay. This is my soul. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
For the first time, it feels really nice.
I love that. And I'm excited to hear everything that you have. And so everyone needs to follow this journey. So where can they find you on social media?
Piece of cake over at Chrisette Michele on Instagram. You'll if you click the link in my bio, you'll see when we do new drops at my online boutique, which is called Moody by Chrisette Michele. Also, so there's some music coming out. There's some clothes always coming out at Moody, and of course there's the tour, and you can follow all that on Instagram, Chrisette Michele with one L.
Yes, please. 1L, please. I love that. It's unique. And just you as a whole, your vibe, your energy is just so peaceful. And I love that you're finally in a space where you can share that and be truly comfortable, with your expression. So I'm excited. I'm about to go get my ticket for me and my mom
Yeah.
now. But I definitely enjoy you taking the time out to just share a little bit about your journey. We can't give too much away because people need to buy tickets. They need to be in
Yeah.
attendance. Get the
You know
full.
what you guys can use, especially when you're bringing your mom. Like there's a lot of girls bringing their moms. You guys can use the code SOFTHEART, SOFTHEART for $50 off of each of your tickets. So if you purchase your ticket, each one will get $50 off. So we'll do that for you guys.
Okay, awesome. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you.
you're, you're
Well,
welcome.
I definitely had a pleasure speaking with you. And I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you.